Hello, I'm here again for another one of these things, and I've got two guests. There might be technical problems because there always is, but I'm going to introduce the first guest, and then I'm going to introduce the second guest. And so, first of all, I'm going to introduce Umby Winters.
Hello.
Hang on a minute, did I put you in there? I didn't put you in there yet. Yeah, there you
are.
Hello. Hello, how are you? How's your fringe going so far?
Yeah, it's going well. It's my first one, and so I thought I knew what to expect, and I didn't.
No,
I didn't expect.
The thing is, even if you've been up here 10 times, it's not going to be the same every time. So whatever you're experiencing is probably just. So have you had any shocks in how your experience has gone so far?
Shocks, not really. I was expecting to be tired, and I am tired. So that's one. Everyone says this, but I didn't expect Edinburgh to be so steep. It's a lot of hills, and and expensive. Yes.
Oh yeah.
But no, I'd say, like, for the most part, like, I'm just really enjoying myself. Like, I love doing the show, and I love watching shows, and I love hanging out with other performers, and that's all the Fringes, and I'm just having a great time.
Yeah. So it's your first Fringe. Is it also your first one-person show?
Yeah, I mean, I did this show as like a work in progress in preparation for the Fringe, but yeah, this is my first time doing a one-person show.
Wow, that's amazing. So have you had good audiences so far?
I've had good audiences in terms of they've been laughing and they've been on board. And in terms of numbers, no. My highest has been 16. 16.
That's a lot more than the Edinburgh average. And of course, I mean, if you'd have got one, you could have got in all the papers and stuff. 16,
yeah, that's true.
16 is good. There are some venues that 16 would be absolutely packed to the rafters.
I know, but like 16 was the highest, but the average is about 5. So
well, yeah, but still, if the show keeps going on and you're learning something, that's something. So what's your show about?
So it's it's not reversed. Yay! I've got a flyer. That's me. It's called All There Is. It is a 1 hour debut hour of stand-up, and it is about. So I am non-binary. It says it's on the back. I'm non-binary, neurodivergent, pansexual. I'm goth. It's a show about those things. It's a show about my life and my observations from someone who is identifies as neither a man nor a woman. Mm-hmm. So, like, in the show, I talk about like having to decide which bathroom to go in if there are no gender-neutral options, and the ramifications of that. I talk about the very inappropriate questions that trans people might get from complete strangers at a bus stop. And it's even a little bit, I describe it as like gently educational, because I go into a little bit about like letting people know the difference between like pansexuality and bisexuality. But it's mainly just stories about weird and funny things that have happened to me because I don't identify as a man or a woman. And it's like, I've tried to make it like accessible so that even if you are not queer and can't relate to the queer experiences, you can still find every story funny. Like it's trying to be, appealing to more than just a queer audience.
Yeah. So would you say, is it accessible and fun, or would you say there's a serious undertone?
No, I thought about maybe putting in a little bit of pathos at about the 45-minute mark, which is all the rage. But ultimately, I was just like, nah, I've just got jokes, and I just want to do jokes for an hour. So I just do jokes for an hour, apart from a little like 2-minute bit right in the middle where I go into a little bit about the color theory between the pansexual flag and the bisexual flag. Right. But even that, like, because like you can actually sort of tell. Because people don't know the difference between pansexuality and bisexuality, and you can actually, if you know the color theory behind the flags, you can actually tell the difference based on that. I touch on that briefly, but mainly just so I can make a joke.
Oh, that's good. On another note, our other guest has made it to the studio, so I'm going to introduce Kelli Dunham, who's got a show that's different thematically, but might have some touching points. How is your show going? What's your show called, first of all, Kelli?
It's called Second Helping, Two Dead Lovers, Dead Funny. So it has the word dead in it twice. So I still have a lot of flyers. That's what happens if you put the word dead twice in your title.
So how is that? Oh, yeah, it's like moving it around. Just trying to work out maybe that way is nice, isn't it? Everybody's not got a big sticker on their head now. So have you been getting the audiences in for that?
The first couple days were a little rough. And we've had, at CC Bloom's, I've had within like two or three seats of being completely full. And I've had one day where it was very grim. But yeah, I think I didn't think it through all the way, but this is the show I'm doing now. And you can't like go out in the Royal Mile and be like, hey, let's all talk about death. But if I can have a conversation with people and they're interested in a show that, in the beginning, it has like a laugh every 45 seconds, but then it gets kind of serious, although it's ultimately hopeful. But, it's a little bit of a trick marketing-wise. But, not a trick. It's a trick to market it. I'm trying not to trick people.
Tricking people.
Two dead lovers in it, because I didn't want people to think they were just coming to like something extremely light. But it's really, really hopeful at the end. So.
Yeah, exactly. It was heartwarming. That's dog worming. No, it was heartwarming. Yeah, I went to see it the other day, and there was a range of audience. Really, there was quite the demographics of right across the board. Really.
Yeah. So yeah, that was amazing to me. That was and I had a theory that it had a universal theme, but I wasn't. You never know,
Yeah. So is this? I mean, have you done a lot of fringes, Kelli? Yeah.
I've done a few in the States, and during the pandemic, I did a lot of virtual ones, which was interesting and fun, and also you didn't have to fly or anybody, so there was that.
Exactly. Is this your first Edinburgh though?
It's the first time with my own show. I was here 5 years ago for my 50th birthday. I came and just guested on other people's shows, and that's like being at summer camp. That was fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh
that's
my God.
A nice way in. Yeah.
I have sort of just had the thought yesterday that the Edinburgh Fringe Festival is just like summer camp for performers.
It is, especially the first few years. Yeah.
Yeah, especially with a little bit of Hunger Games on the side. With hey, let's all compete. The Beth Gibson from Queer Diary was saying like, yeah, let's get everyone who wasn't popular in high school and have them all compete against each other for audiences and give them stars.
Yeah, it's very stressful. Yeah. I think when you let the whole I'm going to win all the awards and get all the reviews mindset, it's a lot healthier because you're like, no, I didn't get 5 stars and I didn't win all the awards, and it's like, yeah, just let it go. If it happens, it happens. So it's good to explore yourself, I think, with these. Have either of you found anything about the show or yourself during the Fringe that you hadn't thought about?
Ooh, that's a good question. I'm pleased with how like proud I am of it, and I'm surprised with how proud I am of it because I'm always my own worst critic, and I'm always like, analyzing and looking back, going, that could be better, that could be better. The show could still be better. The show's not perfect by any means, but I've been working on this thing for like a couple of years now, and I'm actually genuinely surprised with how I'm looking at it, and I'm just like, I'm so proud of this. Like, yes, there are bits and pieces that could still be changed, but I'm just like, I made this, and I'm so happy with it.
That's good. Have you found anything about the show that you wanted to change that you got here, Kelli?
There have been some like tweaks for sure. I remember the last time I performed the same show 7 times in a row when I was in Provincetown, which is kind of a similar situation, even up to the flyering. And I remember thinking, oh, I don't have any idea what people actually laugh at. That was like the conclusion, because there's different laugh points every day. And I'm like, And there's some things that are 100% I'd be like, oh, somebody's always going to laugh at this and somebody doesn't. And then it has a slightly different ending involving calculus that people laughed at. And I was like, oh, I had no idea. I don't think I said the right, because I think you were there like the first or second day my girlfriend was in town. My girlfriend fact-checked my use of math in the end of the show. And then, so the line is a little bit changed now.
Oh,
Now it's a little bit of a laugh line, which is great, you know. I always feel like the mark of whether second helping is succeeding is whether people are able to take out and apply it to their lives. Like, are they more able to ask for help, or are they having conversations about asking for help, or end of life care is the other thing. But I also, like, for my little comics heart, it's the how close I can get a laugh to when the two people, when partner A dies and when partner B dies, you know. And if I can get that down to like 30 seconds, I mean, that just feels like, you know, that feels fantastic in its own banana pants way. But that's just like my little artist thing. Like, that's what I want. And I do know that it's helpful for people. There was a very old Scottish man, I think he would identify as very old, a few days ago. And he said that his wife had died the year previously and he hadn't cried about it. And he was crying then. And he's like, he said, I don't think I can cry without laughing first. And I was like, all right, well, I guess that works out well then.
It's cathartic. It's very cathartic. And that's the thing, though. I think I don't think any subject is off limits, just how you deal with it, really. I mean, there are ways that you're like, that really wasn't the best way. But I think laughter, in a lot of ways, with a lot of, not every subject, but I mean, what do you think? Are there any subjects you think you wouldn't touch upon in yours, and Kelli as well? But
so it's interesting because I actually went to see Kelly's show a few days ago.
Yeah.
And you know, I'm already starting to think about like next year's show, and I don't have like a dead ex, but I do have like relationships that I'm like, I would change things that had happened, and I wish that I had been different during that time. And Kelly's show really got me thinking about that, and so I've actually I was sort of like starting to construct a through line for the next show after after finishing Kelly's show. I was like, this is really good. Bye. But yeah, so I think you know, this year's show, it's like it's 100% jokes, with no like sort of cathartic moments. But next year's show might be different. And I'm surprised by how weighted I am I'm like considering making the light versus the heavy. Like, I'm thinking, I might, second year at the Fringe, I might immediately go for like half and half, or maybe even more heavy. Yeah. Maybe it won't even be a comedy show. Maybe it'll be a spoken word show with some jokes in it. Yeah,
I mean, there's all different ways to go. I don't think there's only one way. I mean, the whole Hannah Gadsby thing, I can't remember the name of it, but the one where she said she's given up comedy, and it started off, there was all jokes, and it was just like, I'm not really into these jokes, and then it turned, and it was like, now I'm enjoying this, when it turned into something else. So I think jokes are, it's a good way to start. It's a good first Fringe to have all the jokes and then see what comes out of that, really, I think.
But you know, because I'm excited to actually get back and start gigging again, because the jokes in my show are all jokes that I've been working on and like refining for the 3 to 5 years, depending on if you include the pandemic, that I have been doing comedy. Right? It's all this hour is made up of all those jokes that I've been like working on and dropping and reworking. I'm excited to get back and be like, all right, fresh slate of when I go and do open mics, all new gigs. You know, when I like maybe keep a couple of the really good ones for if I get like paid slots, but otherwise I'm excited to get back. Like, all right, blank page. Let's see what I can come up with.
Yeah, and also there's a very different sort of feeling to just gigs in a comedy club and gigs when it's your own show. You've got more freedom, really, I think.
Yeah.
So, Kelli, this year's show, has it made you think about next year's show already?
Yeah, I mean, you know, the first couple of days I was so miserable. I was like, why am I doing this? You know, which I think was what I think, especially trying to get the audience in, right? Like that was when it started going a little bit smoother, although I had a bad day yesterday, but in general, much smoother. And I think I figured out like who's actually wanting to be flyered, because it does seem like people want the flyering conversation, that is part of their Fringe experience, right? So, which I didn't realize because I wasn't talking to the right people. Like I wasn't talking to the people who actually wanted to. Also, I carry a picture of me as a nun around, which does help. But I was talking to my girlfriend, and I was so miserable the first days, and I was like, okay, next year. And she's like, next year? And I have deep biological optimism. I will not remember anything negative from this year at all. Like it'll all just be positive. It's, great for mental health, but terrible for decision making. But I actually have been thinking I have a show that is more a work in progress right now called Gender Reveal Party Pooper. I guess it's Gender Reveal Party Pooper, which I'm trying to decide if it would work here. I'd love to do a morning show, I think.
I think it would, because I mean, increasingly people do those stupid gender reveals that explode barns and take aeroplanes from the sky, and for what purpose? Yeah, so it probably would. Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting in terms of like, right, like when people are, I had there was a Sunday Times article about my show in terms of, because there's a medical aid in dying, medical aid in dying piece of it, and there's something in front of the Scottish Parliament right now, or going to be. And so, and one of the emails I got in response to that article was, if I were married to a non-binary ex-nun, I'd kill myself too, right? Like a very uncreative hate email, or maybe creative, I don't know which one. Anyway, I think what people don't understand is like when they're so caught up in kind of hating the trans and like gender nonconforming community, is that, I mean, this is going to sound pompous, but we're not the problem. We're actually the solution. Because school shootings. Guns is the big problem, but after that, it's toxic masculinity, right? And having a conversation about gender and what gender means and what gender doesn't mean, and how we can like break free of gender. I don't feel like we're the problem. And so I'd love to have those conversations. I mean, I'd love to have a conversation that's just about masculinity, It is a little tricky. I'm not sure that would be this would be the first place, because there is, we act like UK and America are the same culture because we speak the same language, but it's not,
No, I mean, there are touching points though. But I think that's interesting what you said. I put a post on Facebook about how toxic masculinity is bad, and I got a lot of friends that are men going, I'm not bad. It's like, I'm not saying you're bad. Toxic masculinity isn't you. Why are you taking it personally? It's like,
also
that's just them proving the point at that point.
Yeah, exactly. Also, toxic masculinity is terrible for men too. If it's toxic, it's toxic for everyone. It's terrible. Like men feel so. I mean, why? I mean, I don't know whether it was like more being Scottish or more being male that guy couldn't have cried about his wife. How fair is that? That's not fair.
But I think people don't. I don't know whether it's the same in this country. I think it's universal. People don't really question what they've been told in a lot of times. This is who you are, and this is what you will be. And most people don't fit in those boxes, and most people never question it and spend their whole entire life being miserable. So it's worth opening up that box, and it might be a Pandora's box, but you've always got something inside to look at, I think. Yeah, that's killed the room.
No, I'm just thinking of how I could I could advertise it as a Manchester United thing or something like that. And then when people got in, it would secretly be a discussion about, a show about toxic masculinity or something.
Yeah, lock the doors. Don't let them out.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, the Amanda Palmer song Leeds United, really, that is about, really, if you analyse it, it can be about toxic masculinity. It's just like where she's like on stage and there's like football. There's like, watch the video. It's sort of breaking down stereotypes and stuff in just one little music video. So there's a lot of people that have explored these things through the lens of sport, and it's a breeding ground for something. I don't know where I'm going with this. Yeah, it's gone very, very quiet indeed. So, what about you, Umby? You're thinking about the next show.
Yes.
Yes. So,
There's a couple of things that I would want to touch on. So the sort of the most interesting thing that's happened to me in my life was the birth of my daughter, which sounds like I'm being very sweet, but no, it was interesting because it was one of those cases where me and my partner didn't know we were pregnant until he went into labor. So we found out that we were going to have a kid, and then the next day we had a kid. And I'm like, all right, I wanted to get my debut Fringe out of the way with, so I could do jokes. I think the next show is going to be about that, because, and they would touch on, obviously that journey, that 30 hours sort of is the framing device. And then me and that partner we're not together anymore for a couple of reasons, all of them my fault. And I would want to talk about that and just be very honest about how I fucked it up, and it would get heavy. And I'm sort of excited to try and strike the balance between making that honest, but also making it, something that's actually watchable and isn't just me crying at an audience for an hour.
Balance is important.
Yeah.
That sounds like a fertile. That's probably a pun somewhere in there. A fertile ground for.
Yeah, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
Odd choice of words. Yeah.
Odd choice of words. It wasn't meant to be, but
yeah.
Yeah. So next year, have you got any thoughts about specifics about next year, Kelli, or it's like too soon to tell? It's gender reveal, but you're not. Any other thoughts in the bag?
Yeah, I mean, I've also thought about would it make sense to, because people have definitely really liked the ex-nun stuff. And I have a whole show called Bad Habit.
Nice.
That's just that stuff. And that might be interesting, but I want to make it a bigger conversation, which I think the piece of that really is more universal. Because I have to say, there's very few I ask people when people do their first communion or first confession, and that's like, even if people act like they're not Catholic, if you're raised Catholic, you know that, but if you're not, you don't. So there haven't been a ton of Catholics in audiences, but definitely guilt. Very specifically about, the concept of finding yourself in a situation that is terrible for you and thinking that you are the problem rather than the situation, which that is extremely common, So that was another thing I was thinking of. And then I was thinking, like, what if I just did a breakfast interactive show? I've been doing political breakfast with, and that's been really fun. Sometimes I don't even know the subject we're on when folks are talking quickly and it's about some like micro thing of UK politics, but it's a fun thing and people really seem to be enjoying it too. So I kind of think like, oh, what would it be like to have an interactive morning show? Plus I love mornings. So.
I mean, if you can stretch to it, having more than one show up that are vastly different, it's sometimes a good sort of outlet. Like one can let off from the other, and then if one of them's going well, you can I did a compilation show at 10:40 the other day, and the guy said everyone he is just he's just emceeing the compilation show and doing a spot, and he said everyone from his morning compilation show is his audience for his afternoon show. It's also good for promotion. Yeah, obviously. Yeah. So what next? Have you got any other festivals planned, either of you?
No, my calendar is very bare for the remainder of the year. When I get back from the Fringe, I'm going to take 2 weeks off from any writing or performing, and just play Baldur's Gate 3 until I sink and melt into my couch. And then I'll start hitting up open mics and trying to get some paid gigs and just start working on the next show.
Yeah, that sounds like a plan. What about you, Kelli?
Well, a lot of my I have a bunch of nursing conferences lined up,
Uh,
which is really, really a different crowd, I have to say. That is very different. I mean, sometimes I've performed for a nurses union where they'd had an open bar for 3 hours, and that was there's not going to ever be a Fringe show like that. Like not at least one in CC Blooms. Like it's, people can get pretty drunk in 3 hours. But that is not usual nursing conference. Usually nursing conferences is like 8 a.m. and you're trying to make nurses, laugh before, as long as it's after coffee, but before breakfast is fine. So that's what I have lined up. I actually am going straight from JFK to Louisville, and that's not a nurses conference. I'm actually performing for this kind of this niche that I've gotten into where it's people who have terrible jobs and they want me to come talk about humor and vicarious trauma. Like there's this actual job. I can't believe this is a job. People who have restorative justice conversations between people who are incarcerated and the family members of the victims they killed.
Oh.
How much faith do you have to have in the human spirit? How the hell do you wake up in the morning and be like, oh, I have to talk to that guy who both parties have to want to have the conversation. Yeah. So ultimately it can be very, I imagine, beautiful, but just so stressful. Anyway.
Sorry, go on.
I did that it's National Association of Victim Advocates in Corrections. I did that conference, and that kind of got me on this, I don't know if it's a circuit of people who have terrible jobs. So when I go back, on the day I get back, the 29th, I think, I'm speaking in Louisville at a conference for IT people, but their job is they run the Vine network, which is the network that does notification for, at first they were saying for like crime victims when people are released or whatever. And I was like, that sounds kind of close to corrections. That's maybe not but it's actually 100% domestic violence folks. So it's people who run the back end of a computer system that tells people when their abuser has not a prison.
So actually, like, even though there's some stressful, traumatic things in your comedy, that your comedy is more of an outlet for it's not really the whole of your life. It's like, cathartic comedy, I think, it's got something to be said for it. Umby, you were going to say something.
Oh, that was just an anecdote with relation to what Kelli was saying about the restorative justice thing. I was just going into an anecdote about a friend of mine who was mugged by some youths in Manchester, and he was given a choice between it was either you can press an extra charge, or you can, if you want to, you can go and talk to them and talk about how it's affected you and the impact it's had on you. And he opted for that, and he said it was a really good experience. They seemed genuinely very remorseful by the end of it, and it seems like it's obviously that's very different from murdering someone, but it's, I think that is a focus more on rehabilitation and making people who making them face the reality of their crimes is a lot better than just throwing them in a box forever.
Yeah, exactly.
It's brilliant.
There's a lot to be said for talking about things and being more open about things. It's just really frustrating when people keep things in, and I think the conversation needs to be more open rather than less open. That you need to talk to people that have hurt you, and maybe, I don't know, sometimes keeping it in helps. Yeah. So you've got shows still to come. Are you here till the end of the Fringe, the both of you now?
Today's my last day off, and then Wednesday through to Sunday I am doing 12:30 p.m. the Doghouse Hotel on New Street every day. And
what's the name of your show again?
It's All There Is.
All There Is. Umby thinks it's All There Is. So there you go. And
what about where's your venue? I've got your questions for the Diva interview, but where geographically is your venue? It's not.
It's near.
It's right by Waverley Station. If you come out on the Market Street side of Waverley Station and turn left, it's just down that road. Alternatively, if you know the mile very well, you just go down the mile until you get to the Canons Gate bar and then turn left again. onto New Street, and then it's just on the corner of New Street there.
I think there's a little road that's closed off. I think but there's the next one down from the road that's closed off that you can get.
Yes, the little road. Yeah, the little road that's closed off. But then if you go a little bit further, you'll see the Canonsgate on the other side of the road. Stick on that side of the road that you're on and turn left, and then you're on New Street, and you can see it on the corner. Yeah.
Yeah. And Kelly, how many have you got left now?
What's today? Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Is that six? Six. Including today.
It feels like it's almost over, but still there's a lot of shows to come. It's like interesting. I've only been here like just over a week, and it's like I've been here a long time, and yet there's still more to come.
Yeah, I do feel like I don't even remember. I mean, in a way, it's kind of nice, like that the summer camp aspect of it. I don't actually remember anything about my regular life.
Yeah. Like I've been here for just 2.5 weeks, but I feel like I have been here for about a year. But not in a bad way. Not in a bad way.
Yeah. No, I mean, it does make you wonder what it would be like if, in a world where I don't know. I mean, it's just really interesting in terms of where there's just people running around the streets going, I must see live theater. I mean, it's such a weird concept.
Exactly.
What I've really liked about this is that it's provided like almost a little snapshot into what I'm working towards. Like my dream is obviously stand-up comedy, doing that full time. And so it's like, so the past 2 weeks, I've just been like, I perform a show, I make people laugh, and I go watch other shows. I maybe go and do some guest spots on like panel shows or game shows, and I get to hang out with other creative people. That's been my life. And that's like the dream. That's the dream. And so this has just been like, this is what I'm working towards. This is a little preview of what I can have if everything goes perfectly.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
It is. And you get to do so much learning, even if you know something about yourself. You've done so many shows, and so many shows that you might not have thought of if you've got guest spots as well. It's a lot, and it's very condensed. Right, so Kelly, yours is at CC Bloom's. What time is it?
4:15.
Yeah, and it's called Second
Helping, Two Dead Lovers, Dead Funny.
Brilliant. Yeah, so that takes up most of your listing, I would have thought. Yeah, it's like good. I don't think it was.
The 2 deaths. I didn't want any surprises. Already hard enough to look at people's faces when they know. When I first say like, and then she had a tumor, and everyone's like, I feel sorry for them. So
that's it. Yeah, they know what they sort of know what they're getting going in, and then you surprise them with more. So that's good. Yeah. And I very much like the whole you ask for help and accept help thing about it. That was great. Yeah. All right, so I am going to end this now for today and let you get on with your day. You can have a lovely day off, Umby, and you've got things to do. I've seen on your Facebook lots of things to do today, Kelly, so I'll let you get on with the day. Thank you very much for talking about me. If you want to stay in the broadcast for a bit, I'm going to end it now, though. Bye-bye. Not
Bye.
Bye-bye.